Oh boy,
Yeah,
can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Well, that's good. Stan, are you there?
It looks like he's connecting to audio. I'm not sure, but I can see him, but I can't hear him.
Thank you for being so flexible and quick, Bob.
This was not well planned, Mark.
I agree. Stan, are you there?
He's still trying to connect with you, apparently.
Yeah, I thought I had confirmed this, but I had not, so my bad.
Yeah, well, my 8 a.m. conference call was actually a 10 a.m. conference call. So anyway.
All right. Oh boy.
Looks like he's still trying to connect to audio.
Hello,
Hello.
can you see me? Yeah, you can see me.
Can see you and hear you. Stan, how are you?
Hey, Mark.
Hi,
Isn't
let me
this-
introduce you to Bob. Stan Sinberg, Bob Heyman.
I
Hey,
said,
Bob. A nice little thing you made a display around me. That was nice.
Yeah, we're going to try and make you look as good as possible.
Okay.
And we expect your insightful thoughts, wit, and all that is Stan Sinberg.
Uh-oh. Okay.
Yeah. All right, should we begin, Bob?
for sure, we're
Or
recording.
do you want to cover some ground or anything?
I have no ground to cover.
Okay,
I guess we're done then.
Yeah,
that was good.
that was great. Thank you, Sam. Thank you,
You're
Stan.
welcome.
Mark, why don't you introduce Stan?
Ladies and gentlemen, before we get started, hello and welcome to the Old and in the Way comedy podcast with Bob and Mark, where we fight ageism one bad joke at a time. Reluctantly, we've learned the hard way that repression and denial oftentimes are not enough to hold back the tides of reality before we get our tickets punched. So our mission is clear and compelling. We will pull the veil back and take a less than serious look at all the absurd and real aspects of growing old. Political correctness be damned. But let me introduce you to our guest on tonight's podcast, Stan Sinberg. Stan has a career that has included gigs as an award-winning humor columnist, satiric radio commentator, co-writer of an award-winning musical comedy review, and regular contributor to blogs and humor publications, including Mad Magazine and the Weekly World News. In addition, he is a screenwriter and songwriter. Ladies and gentlemen, Stan Sinberg.
I couldn't tell that you were reading that at all.
Yes, it's due to my acting skills and a little piece of paper over the camera.
And a little bit to your right, it looked like.
How'd you guess that? Always observant. The first part was memorized.
Okay. I'm seeing you. Am I on camera at all?
Yeah, you are.
Oh, all right. Well,
And you've got a table behind you, a brick fireplace, and a bunch of guitars hanging from the ceiling. Where
yeah.
where are you? What state are you in?
I'm in New York. Yeah, New York City.
And you completed your anti-Trump tour?
No, well, for people who don't know, you should. I've been doing. Well, there's a whole story behind it, but I have a roving anti-Trumpism bandwagon that I have been touring around with for the last several years, not continually, but I've been doing it for the elections, for the midterm elections. And
Thank you.
I designed and sell some buttons that that are anti-Trump, but also progressive pins. And recently I was in the swing states of Pennsylvania and Georgia, particularly Georgia, uh, because those were the two most important elections. So I took a break. I was in Georgia for the runoff. I took a break, and now I'm going back on when this. I don't know when this is airing, but I'm going back on November 30th, and we'll be there through the runoff election on December 6th. That will be the end of my tour.
And so you're going out where the candidates are. So have you been to a Herschel Walker?
No, I don't go to Herschel Walker rallies. I go to where I might sell some buttons and people won't stomp on my bandwagon. So I go to Raphael Warnock rallies. I was going to Stacey Abrams rallies prior at the same time, where she lost. So now I'm just going to Raphael Warnock rallies. Obama's going to be in Georgia on December 1st, so he'll draw a big crowd. So I'll be there for that.
How did this noble task start?
Oh, well, there's a long version and a short version. Which do you want?
Somewhere in between.
Which?
Somewhere in between.
Somewhere in between. Well, in 2016, when I was living in New York, well, actually, I was in California, but I had friends in New York who had a storefront in the Lower East, in the East Village. And when Trump got the nomination in 2016, in California, you're just kind of a bystander to the election because you know how California is going to go blue. So I wanted to be a little bit more proactive rather than just be a bystander. So I had the idea of opening up an anti-Trump store in New York, about 2 miles south of Trump Tower as the crow flies. And it would just sell anti-Trump stuff, like no pro-Hillary, just anti-Trump. I thought it would be kind of an embarrassment. And even CNN would not be too lazy to come down and give it some publicity. My friends loved the idea, but they had a third partner who was afraid the storefront would get firebombed or something. So, which at the time seemed a little paranoid, but now does not seem so paranoid. And anyway, so shelved that idea. But in the meantime, I had been looking around for anti-Trump products. And anyway, eventually I came up with designing a couple of T-shirts that were anti-Trump, two different styles. And in San Francisco, in I think August or September of that year, they have the strictly bluegrass, non-bluegrass, whatever it's called, festival. So I made up 500 T-shirts. I figured, all right, I'll go there and just sell these. It's a free festival. There'll be hundreds of thousands of people there. I'll sell them. And I don't know, I didn't take it any further than that. When I got there, I had sold them. I was there for about a half an hour, maybe less. I had a big, a gigantic display, boxes of shirts. Within 20 minutes, the police entrapped me and just kind of shut me down. I was immediately surrounded by 6 police, the good cop, the bad cop, the worst cop, the empathetic cop, the cop checking his email, and the cop who can't believe it takes 6 of them to handle this. And anyway, they read me the riot act, and I had to leave. I went back the next day, kind of guerrilla, just selling. Well, anyway, and then on the Sunday, I went back, and they nabbed me again. I was walking along the path, and I hear a cop going, "Sinberg." And when the cop knows your name 2 days later, that's never a good sign. All right, so to keep the story, the 6 cops came around again. Anyway, the upshot is at the end of that weekend, I still had about 450 of my 500 shirts left. And so I started going around to political rallies, to Hillary rallies, and around the country to sell them. And it eventually evolved. On election night, I still had a few shirts left. I was in New York at the Jacob Javits Center, where Hillary was going to have her victory party. So my plan was to sell the last few shirts and then go into the party and wash my hands of this business. Around 8:30, around 7 o'clock, people are pouring into the Jacob Javits Center like it's New Year's Eve. I'm half a block away. I'm close enough that I can hear people cheering. Around 8:30 in the evening, I realized I'm not hearing any cheering. So I put my stuff away. I went inside. It was like Night of the Living Dead. Everybody's walking around like a zombie. Around 10:30, when it became evident that Trump was winning, I ran back to my van, pulled out the rest of my shirts, and people were buying them like crazy. Because they said dump Trump and Looney Tunes with Trump's face on it. And so I say I was basically the first job that Trump created.
Ah,
Was,
what was illegal?
after he won. But
What,
that,
what was illegal about selling T-shirts at least strictly?
oh, at the festival,
Yeah.
you had to have a license. I actually had a license, and I passed it around. And the first cop passes it to the second, to the third, to the fourth, to the fifth. So they get to the sixth cop. He goes, "This isn't the proper license. This is just uh, a tax license. You need a permit to sell. You need a second license." So if there were five cops there, that's why they have six cops. If there were five cops, I would have been fine. But because the sixth cop saw it, I thought I had the proper license, but I was wrong. Uh, anyway, so yeah, you weren't allowed to sell at this event without a permit or a license or
So
anyway.
does Trump having announced give you a new lease on business?
Yeah, ironically, so eventually after the election, my business evolved into buttons, and I had a stand, a big sign called the Roving Anti-Trump Bandwagon, and the subhead was the only job Trump's created, and I designed. First, I was using some buttons that the button magnate of New York, Mark Berkowitz, designed. But then I started designing my own, and now I design all my own. So I sell. I have a few samples here, but I sell all my own buttons, and it's a nice display. And that's how it. Yeah, and so
Are
it took a
you
while.
are you moving merchandise, or are you making
Yeah, no,
money,
I'm
or are
still.
you
No,
just trying to make a point?
well, it's both. I mean, people ask me sometimes, why don't you sell? Do you have anti-Trump stuff on one side and Trump stuff on the other side? There's a lot of, when I was doing the rallies in the swing states, a lot of vendors that's exactly what they were doing. They would go to Hillary rallies in the morning and Trump rallies in the afternoon, and I wouldn't do it. I was basically the only one who would not do that. And they all thought I was stupid and, I'm leaving all this money on the table, and Trump people spend more money than Hillary people. And it doesn't matter about red and blue, it's all about green. But I couldn't do it. So,
Can you share a website where listeners could buy your merch?
sorry.
Can you share a website address, assuming that you could?
Oh, I have an Etsy store, anti-Trump bandwagon. I have an Etsy store. I also have an Instagram, anti-Trump bandwagon on Instagram. I I need to put a little bit more energy into and update them. But if people want that, they can find it there, the Etsy store. And
And there's none of that on your website,
no, it's not that on my website. No.
which would make it pretty easy to find,
Well,
maybe.
if people went to my website, but
Got it.
well, maybe I'll put some up there. I haven't updated that website in quite a while. Uh, anyway, these are a couple of the buttons. I had, I have a lot of buttons. This is mental health alert. If you're still defending Trump,
Can you hold it up to the camera?
There.
Where your face is, there you go.
There we go.
Perfect.
Mental health alert. If you're still defending Trump, you're in a cult. This one is pro-choice, pro-vax, pro-equality. That is pro-life. This one here is fuck your thoughts and prayers. That's actually the most popular button. I have abort the court. I also have abort Texas and take Florida with you. I had a lot of other. I had make America humane again. Still, I have about 20 different buttons at any given time. Don't drink the bleach is a popular one. So the buttons are mostly fun. And I have also the candidates. I had a Warnock pin. I had a Stacey Abrams button that I designed. I personally gave them each a pin, which they liked. So it's been interesting. Going to the swing states is interesting because I can sell more buttons in the blue states, but it's sort of like just if buttons do any good at all, which they probably do as much good as lawn signs, which I don't know if anybody's ever switched their vote because of a lawn sign, but to the extent that they do any good, they give people a little bit of a of an endorphin rush, and maybe do in the swing states.
I assume you were in Pennsylvania?
I was in Pennsylvania. I went to some Fetterman rallies, and but then I mostly went to Georgia.
Okay.
How are you traveling by car?
Yeah, I rent a car and just travel around. Kind of taxing. On any given day, they might be 3 hours from where I'm staying, so that's a 6 hour round trip, and then they go to a couple of rallies. So it involves a lot of driving. It was easier in 2020 when it was more. I seemed to be more concentrated to rallies.
Can we segue into talking about your overall career and your rich history of writing for various publications, including Bob has a little bit of a legal background, and I know you've done all this business writing for various law firms.
Yeah, well, that's not the comedy part. If you're a comedy part,
Funny about law firms, Mark.
Yeah, I guess we can avoid that. But what
well, I mean,
are you doing anything on beyond the buttons and the all these rallies right now?
Well, I'm working on a
Blogging.
novel. I'm working on a novel that I've been trying to finish for a long time, and trying to promote a one-act play that I finished a while ago, and it's been sitting in my. So and then the Weekly World News, which is on the bottom. What is that? The bottom right on your screen.
Mhm.
I wrote for them for many years. Well, about 4 years, but I wrote hundreds of stories for them. If people don't know it, that was the black and white tabloid that would be at the news checkout counter at the supermarket with stories like Elvis is alive and living on the moon. I had a front page story there about the real reason for global warming is that teenage space aliens are using our glaciers for party ice. Anyway, so that was the kind of publication you would pick up when you were on the checkout line, and then you would look at it, you would chuckle, you would put it back. If you decided to buy it, because it was funny, you'd always have to explain yourself to the supermarket cashier so she wouldn't think you were a total idiot for buying it. You have to explain, I know these stories are fake. That kind of stuff. Anyway, I wrote for them for a long time. They went out of business a few years ago, and now they're talking about coming back. So recently I've written a few stories for them. A few months ago, right now it's online, but they're going to try to resurrect the print edition. So I started writing a few stories for them. One story I wrote a few months ago before Trump announced his new candidacy was that Trump announces candidacy for 2024 insurrection. So in other words, he was going to just skip the election because why bother? If he loses, he's going to challenge it anyway and declare it was fake. And he was inside another insurrection. So he's going to skip the middleman and go straight to announcing that he's a candidate for the 2024 insurrection. So that was the story I did recently. Some of the other, you have up there Mad Magazine. I wrote for them for a long time, but of course they went out of business when they went to full reprint. I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago. So unfortunately, some of these great things that I used to write for and love are no more. So so it's ironic that the Trump stuff. I mean, I would wait. I tell people, as much as I'm anti-Trump, which is obviously I'm very anti-Trump because that's the basis for this business. but I was telling people that if he died tomorrow when he was president, I would be a little conflicted because I'd be very happy he was gone, but suddenly I'd be out of the job. So, but I was still.
And your thoughts on Trump
but I
right
was
now,
still.
because he seems to be crippling the Republican Party just by being himself.
Yeah. I couldn't hear the first part of your question. Am I?
What's your take on Trump currently having just announced his candidacy, but also inviting Kanye and the white nationalist to Mar-a-Lago, which is unbelievable.
Yeah, what's my take? My take on him never changes. He's a psychotic madman, and he's willing to burn down the country. I knew this in 2016, as soon as he announced. He's willing to burn down the country. All he cares about is himself. When I sell these in New York, with my bandwagon, occasionally I go by the Broadway shows like Hamilton or the political shows like To Kill a Mockingbird, and there's a lot of tourists there. So when I walk by with my bandwagon, I say, we know Trump the best. That's why we hate him the most. I mean, we've known for 30 years, what a douchebag and the scumbag he is. And numerous people have told me about how they subcontracted for him and got stiffed.
Oh, sure.
So it's my take on him never changes. It's just, but I also don't predict what's going to happen with him because, like everybody else, I was wrong in 2016. And every time you think, how many times have you thought that he can't survive this, he can't survive this? He's like those Saturday morning cartoon serials that you used to, that were movies where every episode would end with the heroine being tied to the railroad tracks and the trains coming, or cars going off the cliff. You'll think he'll never survive this. And then, the next week they come back and there he is. He's like that. So I never predict what's going to happen with him.
I'm sticking by my position is that God sent Trump to destroy the Republican Party, and her plan is working.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. People want. I want him to get some Democrats want him to be the nominee because they think he's not electable again. But and even if I agreed with that, I would still want him to go away because I just think he's such a dangerous presence. It's just he's like a cancer.
There's a large swath of the population, and I have relatives in Tennessee, which is a very red state, and they almost see him biblically. And I think once people put him on that kind of plateau, you can't talk to them.
When I went to the swing states in 2020, I went to North Carolina and Georgia primarily, mostly North Carolina at that point. And I didn't know. I went to the blue parts of the red states or the blue parts of the purple states, but because sometimes people would say to me, "Well, why don't you go to Alabama with your bandwagon?" And I go, "Why don't you go to Alabama with my bandwagon? I'm not a martyr." But I didn't know what kind of reception I was going to get, so I went to like Asheville, North Carolina, and the first time I walked out, within 5 minutes, there were people almost literally prostrating themselves at my feet, going, "Oh my God, anti-Trump stuff! We never see this. Thank God, everything else is Trump, 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 Trump." And so we love this. And then on the other hand, on weekends when the tourists from the surrounding areas outside the city limits would come in, they'd look at it and go, "Anti-Trump, anti-Trump. Who could be anti-Trump? How's that possible? Why are you anti-Trump?" So you get quite a range. And so I've sold these, getting back to that. I mean, I sold them all over the country, but people's reactions are, I get people all the time who say, "I would love to wear your buttons, but I'm afraid if I wore them, where I live, I would get killed or I would get, harassed." And then I try to say, well, if you let them intimidate you, then they win. But that never convinces anybody.
Have you been threatened at all?
I've been, yeah. I mean, I had somebody tell me if the police weren't around, they would kill me. Uh, I had
Boy.
somebody spit on me. I went to in DC before January 6th, but after Trump was lost in this last election in 2020, they were going to have like a 10,000 man march for Trump or something like that. And there was supposed to be a counter. There was supposed to be a counter protest. So I figured I'll go down with my bandwagon for the counter protest. When I got there was no counter protest. There was just 15,000 Trump supporters, and I took down the sign, but I still had my bandwagon, which exhibits all the buttons, and I didn't want anybody to see them, because when sometimes people would come over attracted to the bandwagon, and I'd say nothing to see here, nothing to see here. But I got caught in a log jam, and there was one guy who looks just like he looked like he was right out of Appalachia with a long straggly beard and all the denim and stuff. And anyway, he was carrying a boombox about this big, and he had it blasted at full volume. And he saw me, and he just put it to my ear, and was trying, and there was no place to really move, and he just followed me and kept it by my ear. It was deafening. So finally, I just told him I was going to call the police, which were right there, and then he moved away. I've had people throw my sign down. But I have never. I'm still here, so I guess I've certainly been cursed at. I've been threatened, but not. I mean, I have people tell me a couple weeks ago.
You haven't been to the hospital.
I had a couple of weeks ago. I had 3 people in an hour. Georgia tell me, "Boy, you're a brave man," and I hate hearing that because, first of all, I'm not brave, and secondly, I don't really. I'm usually kind of oblivious to the fact of that I might be in danger. So when people tell me I'm a brave man, suddenly I think, really? Why am I in trouble here? So I really hate when they tell me that, because but that happened like 3 times in an hour. People tell me I'm a brave man for doing this. Anyway, I guess we dodged the bullet on the midterms. We all were afraid that democracy was going to come to an end. We survived that, at least for the present. After the midterms are finished, I'll probably not do this much, not go around with my bandwagon much next year. But then I'll probably resurrect it in 2024, and then that'll be it for that. And then in the meantime, I'll be getting back to my writing, which has been kind of on the back burner.
Okay, I'm getting the notice because we're cheap from Zoom that we're running out of time. Is there any last that you would like to promote?
Do I want to promote anything?
Or anything else you would like to use the platform such as it is for?
I don't know. I mean, like I said, my buttons are on anti-Trump bandwagon on Instagram and also on Etsy. I changed it from anti-Trump bandwagon to anti-Trumpism because when he lost, unfortunately he didn't go away, but he also became a movement. So I changed it to anti-Trumpism. So that's where people can find my buttons. And now that you're kind of inspiring me to update my site and put on my newest buttons. So
I would love to encourage you to do that, and I think you're doing the.
I have a special holiday button too. I have a Trump in an orange jumpsuit, and on the bottom it says, it looks like he's in prison for treason, and it says, "All I want for Christmas."
Oh, I love it.
Got it.
I love it. Well,
so
thank you, Mark. Anything else you want to add?
No, Stan, it's nice catching up with you again. It's been a while. I wish you the best with your buttons, and I hope you make a shitload of money.
Well, it's kept me kept me in buttons. What can I say?
There you go.
If you don't finish the book you're working on, it sounds like this would be a good book.
Yeah, people do say that it would make a good story. I mean, I had a lot of funny stories with encounters with people.
Well,
Yeah.
let me leave you with, I would love to read it if you write it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if I write it, I'll let you know, and we can promote it on a future podcast.
We'll do that. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Stan.
Okay. Thanks. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.